The police knocked on my door the same night my daughter skipped my birthday, and for a moment, I honestly thought they had the wrong apartment. The sound was firm, official. Practiced nothing like the light tapping Livia used to do when she was little and afraid of thunderstorms. I dried my hands on a dish towel, still holding the single plate I had washed after eating my birthday dinner alone, and opened the door just enough to see two uniforms waiting in the hallway. "Ma'am," the taller officer said. "Are you Elindra Rowan?" I nodded, gripping the plate against my chest. "Yes. Is something wrong?" He exchanged a look with his partner, a younger woman whose gaze softened the second she saw my slippers and the barely blown-out candle still sitting on my counter behind me. "We received a concern call. She said, your daughter reported that you might be unstable, in danger, or unable to open the door." For a moment, I forgot how to breathe. "My daughter called you." "Yes, ma'am," the taller one said. She sounded worried. "She said you changed the locks and stopped answering." I stepped back automatically, letting them inside because I had nothing to hide except a heart that felt too old and too tired for another blow. The younger officer glanced around as if expecting chaos, but all she saw was a clean kitchen, a small table with one chair pulled out slightly, and a half-finished cup of chamomile tea. "There was no emergency," I said quietly. "My daughter simply did not come to see me today." The truth pressed forward before I could stop it. The empty chair from earlier flashed in my mind, the one I had set for Livia, with her favorite lemon cake beside it. I had waited until the candles melted and the frosting sagged. Then I finally blew out the candles myself and whispered a wish I knew would not come true. The younger officer's voice pulled me back. "Ma'am, did something happen between you and your daughter today?" I pulled my phone from my pocket and held it out. She sent me this message 2 hours after she ignored my birthday. On the screen, the words still sat like a bruise. "I need $2,400. Send it now." The officers read it silently. I swallowed and added, "I told her I could send her $20. I wished her good luck. And then I changed my locks. That is all." The younger officer exhaled through her nose. The taller one rubbed the back of his neck. "Ma'am," he said gently, "there is nothing here that suggests you are in danger or unstable. You seem completely fine. We will file this as no risk." They apologized for the intrusion, but I shook my head and thanked them anyway. When I closed the door behind them, my hand trembled against the wood. It was not fear. It was something heavier, something I had refused to name for too many years. I set the clean plate back on the counter and stared at my silent phone. The officers had barely turned the corner of the hallway when a new thought slid into place. Sharp and cold. Changing the locks had not ended anything. It had only begun whatever came next, and I needed to understand why. The 2 days after my birthday moved slowly, the kind of slow where every hour echoes louder than it should. I kept my phone close, though I told myself I was not waiting for anything. Still, every time the screen lit up for a spam call or a reminder to drink water, my heart jumped in a way I wished it would not. Livia did not call. She did not text. Not a word, not even the 2-line messages she used to send out of obligation on holidays. I tried to distract myself, washed laundry that did not need washing, rearranged the pantry, folded the same stack of old letters that had belonged to my mother. By the end of the second night, my hands ached from the quiet tasks. But the silence in my apartment ached more. On the morning of the 3rd day, my phone finally buzzed. For a moment, a foolish moment, I thought maybe it would say something simple like, "Happy birthday, Mom. Sorry I missed it." What I saw instead made my stomach drop. "I need $2,400. Send it now." There was no greeting, no explanation, no mention of my birthday or the empty chair or the candles I had blown out alone. Just the demand laid flat on the screen, like she had typed it without even thinking. I read it once, then again, then a 3rd time. I sat down slowly, as if my knees could not hold the weight of the words. A few minutes later, my neighbor knocked gently, asking whether I needed help carrying groceries from her car. I told her I was fine. She smiled and left without noticing the way my hands shook. When the door closed, I stared at my phone again. I whispered, "Livia, what are you doing?" But the question was pointless. She could not hear it, and even if she had, she would not have answered. I typed a response twice and erased it twice. First, no, I cannot keep giving you money. Deleted. Too direct. Then, are you all right? Why do you need that much deleted? Too vulnerable. Old habits tugged at me those long years when I bent, stretched, and broke myself to meet her needs. I remembered sending her money for rent when she was 22, for a car repair at 27, for a vacation she insisted was good for her mental health at 31. Every time I said yes, I told myself it was temporary. Temporary had lasted decades. I stared at the message again, feeling something inside me sag with exhaustion. My thumb hovered above the keypad. Part of me wanted to send nothing. Another part, a tired, maternal part, still reached toward her, even when she offered nothing back. Finally, I typed, "I can send $20. Good luck." I pressed send before I could overthink it. The message left my phone with a soft whoosh that sounded far too gentle for the heaviness in my chest. There was no reply. I sat still for a long time, my hands folded in my lap, my breathing shallow and uneven. Something inside me twisted in two directions at once, love that clung stubbornly and exhaustion that pressed hard enough to bruise. I knew I needed to do something different now. The officers at my door had made that clear. The message on my screen made it clearer still. I stood up slowly and reached for the small notebook where I kept household tasks and reminders. My hand hovered above the page, a hesitation. Not of confusion, but of acceptance. I wrote down a single line. It is time to protect what is mine. And with that, the next step came into focus, steady and unavoidable. The morning after I sent those $20, I woke with a heaviness in my chest that felt older than my bones. I stared at the ceiling for a long minute before reaching for my phone. Still no message from Livia, not a single word. The silence confirmed what I already knew I needed to protect myself. I pressed the number of a locksmith I used once years ago. A calm voice answered, "Rowan, lock and key. This is Samuel." Samuel. "This is Elindra Rowan," I said, my voice thinner than I intended. I need a new lock installed today." There was a short pause, the kind reserved for people who sound like they are pretending to be fine. "I can be there in 1 hour. Miss Rowan, same address." "Yes, thank you." When I hung up, my hand lingered on the phone, my thumb shaking slightly, aching. It should not have taken me 72 years to learn how to draw a boundary. Yet even now, guilt pricked through me like needles. Guilt that did not belong to me, but still lived in me anyway. As I waited, memories crept in without permission. Livia at 17, bursting through the door without knocking. "Mom, I need $20 for gas. I took it from your purse." "Sorry, I'm late." She did not wait for my answer. Livia at 26, unlocking the door in the middle of the night. "Relax, Mom. I forgot my key to my apartment and needed someplace to sleep." She had dropped her shoes in the hallway and passed out on the couch. Livia at 34, letting herself in on a Sunday morning. "You never answer fast enough," I say. I thought something happened. I had been in the shower. Each time, I swallowed my discomfort and told myself it was normal. It was not. When Samuel arrived, he carried a small toolbox and the same gentle expression I remembered. "You want the standard deadbolt replaced, Miss Rowan, or something stronger?" "Stronger," I said quietly. He nodded without questions. As he worked, the metal clicked and scraped in small, soothing rhythms. You know, he said, his tone careful. Sometimes people change locks for safety, and sometimes for peace. I looked at him. He was not asking me anything. He was offering space. I did not take it. Just making a change, I murmured. When he finished, he handed me 2 keys, solid, new, cold. I paid him, thanked him, and watched him walk down the hall before turning back inside. I opened the small trash bin beside the counter and took a breath. The old key sat in my palm, warm from my hand, worn from years of use, hers and mine. I closed my fingers around it once before letting it fall into the trash. The sound it made was soft, but it hit me with the force of a door finally shutting in my life. That evening, I was folding a blanket across the couch when I heard it. A key sliding into the lock, a metallic rattle, then another. My heart jumped into my throat. The lock did not budge. A frustrated breath burst through the door frame, then Livia's voice, sharp and irritated. Mom, open the door. Why won't this thing work? I stepped back instinctively, the new key warm in my hand. The hall fell quiet for a moment. Then her voice came again, louder. Mom, I know you're in there. I did not answer. Her footsteps hit the floor hard, then faded down the hallway in angry bursts. When the elevator doors slammed shut, I finally exhaled, steadying myself with one hand on the arm of the chair. Something had shifted, something I could not undo, even if I wanted to, and night was just beginning. The knock came again, 3 firm raps. The same pattern from the night of my birthday. I opened the door slowly, already bracing myself. The same 2 officers stood there, their expressions balanced between duty and discomfort. Miss Rowan, the taller one said. We received another call. My throat tightened. From my daughter. He nodded. She reported that you may be in danger and unable to respond. The younger officer stepped forward. May we come in for a moment, just to confirm you are safe? I moved aside, Buzz. Of course. Please do. They entered with the quiet politeness of people who already suspected the truth. The younger officer glanced around my clean kitchen. The neat stack of folded towels on the couch. The single mug on the table. Nothing looked out of place except me, standing there holding myself with both arms. I am fine, I said, trying to steady my voice. The taller officer gave a small nod. We can see that. We just have to follow protocol. I pulled out a chair and sat because my knees felt weak. She tried to use the old key. I said, it did not work. That is all. The younger officer crouched slightly to meet my eyes. Did she know you changed the lock? She knows now. I whispered, and she did not take it well. They exchanged a look, one of those quiet conversations officers learn to have without words. The taller one leaned against the counter, keeping his voice gentle. Miss Rowan, sometimes when people feel they are losing access, they react strongly. I didn't cut her out, I said, the words rising before I could stop them. I just gave myself a boundary. The younger officer offered a faint, understanding smile. People panic when the person they control stops listening. The sentence landed heavier than the knock on my door. I pressed my hand to my chest. I did not think changing a lock would turn into this. The taller officer softened. You do not need to explain yourself to us. You are not in danger, and you are clearly capable of caring for yourself. We will mark this visit as no risk again. He hesitated. But if your daughter continues to misuse emergency services, there are steps we may need to take. I understand, I murmured. The younger officer's tone lowered. Do you have someone you trust? A friend or neighbor? Just so you are not alone in dealing with this. I have a neighbor down the hall. I said, but this, I did not expect any of this. She touched my shoulder lightly. You are not the first person to face this kind of situation. And you are not doing anything wrong. They both walked to the door. The taller officer paused. If she comes here again and tries to force entry, Call us immediately. I will. When the door closed behind them, I stood still, listening to their footsteps fade down the hallway. My apartment felt smaller than before, as if the air had thickened with everything unsaid. I lowered myself into the chair, my hands trembling gently in my lap. Humiliation settled first, warm and stinging. Then clarity followed, colder and sharper. Livia had crossed a line the moment she called the police, but something inside me knew it would not stop there. Whatever she planned next had already begun moving toward me, and I could feel it in the quiet that settled after the officers left. I spent the rest of that night sitting at the edge of my bed, the quiet humming around me like something alive. The police had barely left my door, yet I felt as if pieces of my past were being dragged back out into the open. Maybe it was time to finally look at them instead of pretending they never mattered. I picked up the old photograph on my nightstand. Livia was 5 years old in it, her curls sticking to her forehead as she held a melted ice cream cone. I remembered the day well. I had just worked a double shift, 30 hours in 2 days, and still tried to take her to the park because she had begged for it. She had no idea how tired I was. She never did. My husband, Alden, had walked out when she was 3. One morning, he packed a duffel bag, kissed our daughter's head, and told me he needed space. That was his last sentence to us. No letters, no calls, not even a goodbye. The silence he left behind became a second job for me to manage, one I never signed up for. I found myself talking aloud, the way people sometimes do when they are alone too long. I tried, Livia. I tried so hard. Memories rose, one after another. When Livia turned 9, I sold my engagement ring to pay for her school uniform. She never asked where it came from. She just rolled her eyes and said it was too stiff. At 14, she slammed the door when I suggested she skip her field trip because I had not been paid yet. I worked an extra overnight shift to make sure she could go. She came back complaining the trip was not even fun. At 17, when she said she wanted a car, I skipped a minor surgery because I did not want to miss more work. The doctor told me it was optional. It was not. Not really. My back has never been the same. I rubbed my knuckles now, remembering another doctor's visit more recently. A small examination, barely 10 minutes. The doctor slid his glasses down and said, "Miss Rowan, you have early-stage arthritis in both hands. Not severe yet, but you should avoid heavy strain." I nodded and told him I would rest, knowing I would not. I never told Livia. She would not have listened. Or worse, she would have used it as another reason to say I was slipping. That memory tightened my chest. The officer earlier had asked if I had someone to trust. I thought of that doctor, looking at me with quiet concern, and wondered what he would say if he knew my daughter had sent police to my door because I changed a lock. As I sat there, my phone buzzed once on the nightstand. My body reacted before my mind did. I grabbed it quickly, hoping just for a second that it was something soft from her, but it was only a notification from the pharmacy reminding me to refill my joint medication. I set the phone down and closed my eyes. The silence pressed harder than before. For years, I had given and given, believing that love was measured in what I could provide. Livia never pushed back when I offered more. She simply took it as her due. She grew up thinking safety was guaranteed, meals were automatic, money was endless. She never saw the secondhand jacket I wore winters in a row because I could not afford a new one. She never noticed the nights I sat with my feet in a bucket of warm water, trying to numb the ache from my shifts. Your suffering is invisible. My doctor's words echoed in my mind. He did not say it about Livia, but he could have. I folded the blanket closer around my shoulders. The memory of her voice outside my door earlier, sharp, angry, entitled, settled in my bones like a bruise. Something had been broken long before the lock ever was. And whatever she was planning next would not come from love. The morning after the second police visit, I woke up with that same tightness in my chest, the kind that made every breath feel like a decision. I moved slowly to the kitchen, poured myself coffee, and set my phone on the table like it was another person I had to face. It lit up before I even took a sip. One new email from my bank. Subject line: unusual activity detected on your account. My fingers stiffened around the mug. For a moment, I told myself it was nothing, maybe a routine check, some automated message they sent to everyone. I tapped it open anyway. Dear Miss Rowan, it read, we have noticed multiple unsuccessful login attempts to your online banking profile. If this was not you, please reset your password immediately and review recent activity. My thumb hovered over the screen. I whispered to the empty room, of course it is today. I clicked the link to log in. The app spun once, then threw a message in my face. Incorrect password. Attempt 1 of 3. I frowned. I had been using the same password for years. I typed it again, slow and careful, speaking it under my breath to make sure I did not slip. Incorrect password. Attempt 2 of 3. A ribbon of cold ran down my spine. I set the phone down, pressed my palms flat on the table, and closed my eyes. Outside, somewhere in the building, a vacuum hummed. Someone's child laughed in the hallway. Life went on. Mine had stumbled. I opened my eyes and tapped, forgot password. The app asked for my social security number, my date of birth, my security question. I answered them one by one. It accepted everything. Then it told me to create a new password. When I was finally back into my account, the familiar list of transactions appeared. Social security deposit, pharmacy, grocery store, electric bill, nothing new, nothing strange. On the surface, everything looked normal. Still, my heart would not slow. I opened the security section and skimmed it. A small line at the bottom caught my eye. Unsuccessful login attempts, 4. In the last 24 hours, 4. Someone had tried 4 times to get into my account before I did. I grabbed my phone and pressed the contact labeled Bank Support. It rang twice before a woman answered, her voice smooth and practiced. Thank you for calling Seaside Federal. This is Nicole. How can I help you today? This is Alindra Rowan. I said, I received an email about unusual activity. It said there had been multiple failed login attempts. Yes. Miss Rowan, she replied. I heard keyboard clicks through the line. Let me pull up your profile. Can you verify your social security number and address? I did. She hummed quietly as she worked. Thank you. I do see a few failed attempts from an unknown device, she said. They were from a different location than your usual logins. Have you tried signing in recently from another phone or computer? No, I said. Just this one. I changed my password just now. Good, she said. You did the right thing. I recommend you do not share your credentials with anyone, even family. And if anyone has had access to your old password, they will not be able to use it now. Family. The word landed heavier than she intended. I swallowed. Is there anything else unusual? I asked. Any charges or transfers? She paused. Your checking and savings accounts look normal at this time. No large withdrawals, no new payees. If you like, I can help you set up alerts for any purchases or changes. Yes. Please do that, I said. She guided me through the steps. Each beep and chime of the app felt like securing another tiny window in a drafty house. When we were done, she said, if anything looks off, call us right away. Miss Rowan, I will. Thank you. After I hung up, I sat there with my phone in my hand, staring at the home screen. I should have felt better. I had changed my password. I had checked my accounts. The woman had said everything looked normal, but this did not feel normal. Out of habit, I opened the app I used to keep track of my credit. It took a moment to load, then showed the same simple score it always did. At the top, a small red dot blinked beside the words, Recent Activity. I tapped it. 2 entries appeared, both dated within the last 24 hours. New credit inquiry, Coastal Line Finance. New credit inquiry, Harbor Point Lending. I blinked, reading the words twice. I had not applied for any new credit. I had not filled out any forms, online or otherwise. I barely used the one card I already had, yet there it was. In plain letters, someone had used my information to ask for more. My heartbeat picked up, slow but insistent. I set the phone flat on the table and placed my hand over it as if I could hold everything in place that way. The threat was not only about what Livia could take from me, it was about what she could try to become in my name. I reached for my notebook, opened to the page where I had written, "It is time to protect what is mine," and drew a line under it that was darker and straighter than the first. Then I turned to a fresh page and began writing down every detail, starting with the words, New Credit Inquiry, and the names of the companies that had appeared overnight. I spent most of the afternoon staring at the 2 credit inquiries listed on my phone, the names of the companies glowing like warnings I did not know how to interpret. Coastal Line Finance, Harbor Point Lending. I had never heard of either one, but they knew my social security number, my address, and enough of my personal history to attempt opening accounts. I dialed my bank again. My voice wobbled when I spoke. "This is Alindra Rowan. I need to speak to someone about possible identity theft." The representative transferred me to the fraud department. A man with a steady voice greeted me. "You have reached Seaside Federal Fraud Prevention. This is Marcus. How may I assist you today?" I breathed in slow. I just received alerts for 2 new credit inquiries that I did not authorize. "Let me pull up your profile," he said. "Can you verify your social security number and your date of birth?" I recited them. He hummed. "And your current address, Maple Run Apartments, number 204. I said. More typing. Then a pause. "Miss Rowan," he said. "I see 2 applications submitted in the last 24 hours using your social security number." My hand clenched around the phone. "Applications for what credit lines?" He said. "One for a personal loan, one for a store credit account. Both were denied due to mismatched information." "What information?" My voice cracked. "The address," he said. "They listed a different residence." I pressed one hand against the table to steady myself. "What address?" He read it aloud slowly. "Livia's apartment." Her exact number, her exact street. A cold heaviness spread down my spine. "That is not my home." "I understand," he said. "Let me ask another question. Do you recognize the email address attached to these applications?" He read it. It was hers, a variation of her name she had used since high school. My stomach twisted. "It belongs to my daughter," I whispered. He hesitated. "Do you believe she may have access to your personal information?" "She knows everything about me," I said quietly. "More than anyone should." Marcus softened his tone. "Miss Rowan, I am so sorry, but I need to be clear. These applications were made using your identity. That qualifies as potential fraud." "I understand. I can file an official fraud report and notify the credit bureaus. It will put a freeze on any further applications under your name." He paused. "Do you want to proceed?" My breath trembled, but my voice did not. "Yes, please proceed." "All right. I will need your verbal consent to begin the investigation. Do you consent to open a fraud case regarding unauthorized credit applications made in your name?" "Yes." I said. "Thank you. I am entering it now." His keyboard clicked. "You will receive documents by email within 1 hour. Please fill them out and return them as soon as possible. And, Miss Rowan, if you feel unsafe, call local authorities. Elder financial abuse is taken very seriously. The last word sat heavy between us. I know. I murmured, thank you. When I hung up, the quiet in my apartment felt different, not just empty, threatened. I walked to my desk drawer, pulled out the small tin box where I kept important papers, birth certificate, tax returns, old insurance forms, all the pieces someone would need to reshape themselves as me. Livia had been in my home countless times. She knew exactly where I kept everything. My phone buzzed again. A new email from the bank. Fraud case opened. The subject line felt like a sentence. I sat down slowly, the weight of it all pressing into my shoulders. Heartbreak had been familiar. I had lived with it for years. But this creeping dread, this violation of my name, my identity, my safety was something colder, something that changed the air in the room. I opened the email, clicked the first form, and placed my fingers on the keyboard. My daughter used my information without consent. I typed, I am reporting fraud. My hands shook as I wrote the words, but I did not delete them. I finished the form, pressed send, and folded my arms tightly around myself. Livia knew every piece of my life, but she knew my history, my habits, my fears, and now she was using them. I stared at my phone for a long time before pressing her name. My thumb hovered over it the way someone hovers over a bruise they already know will hurt. When the call rang through, I kept my breathing steady. I would not yell. I would not beg. I would not explain myself as if I were the one who had crossed a line. Livia picked up on the fourth ring. Finally, she snapped. I have been calling all day. No, I said calmly. You called the police. That is different from calling me. She scoffed. Do not start, Mom. You scared me. You were not answering, and you changed the locks like some paranoid old woman. I changed the locks to protect myself. I said, and I did answer you. I sent you $20 because that is what I could give. You could give more, she shot back. You owe me more. My fingers tightened around the phone. I do not owe you money. Livia, her voice rose instantly. A real mother helps her child. A real mother does not make everything difficult. I needed $2,400, and you sent $20. Do you have any idea how insulting that is? I sent what I could. I said, and I sent it with love. Love, she laughed. Cold and sharp. You call that love? You think I do not know you have savings. You think I have not seen your bank statements over the years. I felt something inside me shift small, but undeniable. You have no right to look at my accounts. I do if it affects me, she said. Everything you have should help me. Everything. I swallowed the ache rising in my throat. You used my social security number. I said, 2 credit applications in my name. You listed your apartment. Your email. Livia froze for a second. Then her voice changed silkier, defensive. I did that for you. For me. Yes. She insisted. To build your credit. To help you get better interest rates. You should be thanking me. I pressed my hand to my forehead. Livia, do not lie to me. I am not lying. You never understand anything. I was trying to help both of us, and now you are making a scene. Why are you always like this? I breathed in. Long and steady. I know what you did. The bank confirmed it. This is fraud. It is not fraud if it is family. She snapped. You can fix this. Just call them and say you approved it. No, I said softly. She inhaled sharply. Excuse me, no. I repeated. You do not get to say no, she said, her voice turning mean. Not after everything I have put up with. Not after everything you owe me. I do not owe you my name, I said. I do not owe you my future. She started shouting something about loyalty, about sacrifice, about how children are supposed to take what they need and parents are supposed to give without limits. But the sound felt distant. like it was coming from another room, another house, another life. For the first time in my 72 years, I ended a call with my daughter. I pressed the button. The line went silent. It felt like stepping out of a burning room and closing the door behind me. Knowing the flames would not stop just because I had walked away, my phone rang just after noon, the screen lighting up with a name I had not seen in weeks. Marianne. My older sister rarely called unless something was truly wrong. I answered with a cautious, "Hello." Her breath trembled on the other end. "Elindra, I heard about the police." I closed my eyes. It was nothing. Livia exaggerated again. "No," she said softly. "It was not nothing. I should have called sooner." A silence drifted between us, heavy but not hostile. Marianne had always been careful with me, careful with the way she offered truth. She cleared her throat. "I need to tell you something. And please, do not hang up." "I will not," I whispered. "She asked me for money." Marianne said, "Livia? She called 3 days ago. She said she needed help urgently." My fingers tightened around the phone. "How much?" She asked for $800 at first. Then $1,200 when I hesitated. Marianne exhaled shakily. "She said you were refusing to help her. She said you were slipping, forgetting things, losing track of your bills." My heart knocked painfully against my ribs. "She said that?" "Yes." "She said she was scared for you, that you changed the locks because you were paranoid. She made it sound like she was the only one trying to keep you safe." I swallowed hard, the bitterness sharp. "I am not losing my mind on "I know," Marianne said quickly. "I know you are not." Her voice wavered, but she spoke so convincingly. I almost believed her. I almost sent the money. I pressed a hand to my forehead. "Why did you not?" "Because something in her tone was wrong," she replied. It sounded like desperation, not concern. And when I asked her if she wanted me to come visit you, she changed the subject, started talking about her own bills, her car, her rent. Marianne paused. It was the first time I realized she was not talking about you at all. She was talking about herself. A sound escaped me, half laugh, half cry. "She has always needed more." "I know," Marianne murmured. "And I have been quiet about it. I should not have been. I should have asked you sooner if everything was all right. I am sorry." I leaned back in my chair, my breath breaking in small, uneven pieces. "Thank you for telling me. It means more than you think." "I should have been here for you," she said. "When Alden left, when Livia was growing up, when things got harder for you, I let her charm distract me. I let my fear of conflict silence me. You were dealing with your own life," I said, my voice softening. "I never expected you to fix mine." "But I could have seen you," she whispered. "I should have seen you." The words untied something inside me, not pain, not regret, but relief so fierce it felt like an open window after months of stale air. My throat tightened, and I covered my mouth with my hand as tears slipped down my cheeks. They were not tears of heartbreak. They were tears of finally being believed. "You see me now," I said quietly. "I do," she replied, "and I am not looking away again." We stayed on the line for a long time, neither of us speaking. The silence between us warm instead of heavy. When we finally hung up, my hands were still trembling, but not from fear. For the first time in years, someone else had witnessed the truth, and truth, once spoken aloud, did not go back into hiding. I made the appointment with trembling hands, though my voice sounded steady when I spoke to the receptionist. By the time I walked into the small law office on Broughton Street, the weight of everything Livia had done sat heavy on my shoulders, thick enough that even the air felt different. A woman in her 40s stepped out from behind a glass door, dark blazer, calm eyes, firm posture. "Miss Rowan, I am Clara Venton." "Please come in," Her office was neat. Papers stacked with a kind of precision that came from long years of cleaning up other people's disasters. She gestured to a chair. "Tell me what brought you here today." I sat, my hands folded tightly in my lap. "My daughter has been using my information." I said, "2 credit applications. My social security number, her address. She called the police on me when I changed my locks, and she has been telling people I am losing my mind." Clara listened without interrupting, her pen moving only when I paused to breathe. When I finished, she let out a slow exhale. "Miss Rowan," she said, "what you are describing is elder financial abuse. It is far more common than people think, and it is absolutely punishable." The word punishable struck a nerve. I had never imagined using that word about my own child. "I do not want to destroy her life." I murmured, "I just want her to stop touching mine." Clara nodded. "We are not here to punish anyone unnecessarily. We are here to protect you. Everything else comes later." She opened a folder. "We will start by updating your will. We will freeze every account you have and put alerts on any attempt to open lines of credit. And we will document the police incident and the bank's fraud report." She slid a form toward me. "Sign here. And I will file the freeze immediately." My hand trembled as I held the pen. "All of this. It feels like admitting she is dangerous." Clara's voice softened. "Sometimes the hardest part is seeing the truth you already knew." She paused before adding, "You are not the first mother to come here because of her daughter." I looked up sharply. "Another daughter." "Yes." She said, "Different circumstances. Same pattern. Control. Entitlement. Guilt." The woman was 78. She blamed herself for everything, even the parts she did not cause. My stomach tightened. What happened to her? "She learned to choose herself," Clara said simply, "and she survived." The words steadied me more than I expected. I signed each form, one after another, until the folder felt heavier than when she first placed it on the table. Clara gathered the pages and closed the folder with a decisive tap. "I will file these today. The freezes will go into effect within 24 hours. And, Miss Rowan, if your daughter contacts you again asking for money, threatening you, or attempting to enter your home, you come to me or to the police first. Not to her." "I will," I said quietly. She walked me to the door. "You have more strength than you think. You came here. That is the first layer of your armor." When I stepped outside, the air hit me with a startling clarity, sharp enough to sting. I did not feel lighter, not yet, but something inside me had shifted, settling into place like the first brick in a wall I should have built long ago. And for the first time, I walked home not as a mother trying to rescue her daughter, but as a woman finally learning how to protect herself. 2 nights after my meeting with Clara, I was sitting at the kitchen table filling out one more fraud document when a sharp metallic scrape cut through the quiet. It came again, an unmistakable sound, a key in my lock. My breath hitched. I stood slowly, moving toward the door with careful steps. Before I reached it, the scratching turned violent, frantic. Then came her voice, muffled but sharp enough to slice straight through the wood. "Open the door, Mom!" Why is this not working? My stomach twisted. I glanced at the small security monitor I had installed earlier that week. Livia stood in the hallway, hair wild, one hand clenched around the old key I had thrown away. She slammed her palm against the door. "You changed the locks. Are you insane?" I forced my voice steady. "Livia, stop. You cannot come in." "Oh, do not start with that." She rattled the doorknob. "You think you can shut me out? You are ruining my life." I backed away from the door. Her tone was frantic. Not hurt rage fueled by something deeper than anger, something desperate. "Livia," I said, louder this time, "you need to leave." She laughed bitterly. Leave? You think I will leave after everything you owe me, after all the money you are sitting on while I am drowning? I do not owe you anything, I said, the words trembling out of me. Her fist struck the door. You do. You owe me everything. Open the door, or I swear. I picked up my phone. I am calling the police. Her footsteps stopped. You would call the police on your own daughter. I am calling the non-emergency line. I said, but yes, if you continue trying to break in, I will. She slammed the door again. You are unbelievable. You think you are the victim here? You think you can play innocent after what you did? I did nothing wrong, I whispered. That is what you always say, she snapped. You are the reason my life is falling apart, I dialed. The ring felt longer than any I had ever heard. Savannah Non-Emergency Services. A calm voice answered. What is your situation? My daughter is attempting to enter my apartment without permission. I said, she has tried with an old key. She is yelling, I need someone to document this. Behind the door. Livia's voice rose again. You are pathetic. You cannot even help me when I need you. The dispatcher asked for my address, my name, and whether I felt in immediate danger. I told her I did not know, but I wanted an officer to come. We will send someone shortly, she said. When I hung up, I stepped farther back from the door. Livia kept shouting, this is all your fault. You did this to me. You should have just given me the money. I did not answer. Something inside me had gone still, like a flame pulled tight to a wick. Minutes later, her voice faltered. Maybe she heard footsteps in the hall. Maybe she realized she had gone too far. The pounding stopped. The knob stilled, then silence. The hallway camera showed her stepping back, wiping her eyes angrily, then storming toward the elevator with quick, furious strides. When the police arrived, I replayed the footage. The officer, a middle-aged man with tired eyes, nodded slowly. We will file a report, this time with her name on it. His tone held no judgment, only a quiet understanding. I signed the paperwork. He handed me a copy. As he prepared to leave, he paused. Miss Rowan, if she comes back, call us immediately. Tonight was nothing. After he left, I stood in the center of my living room, the paper still warm in my hand. My chest rose and fell in small, shaky breaths. I was not afraid, not exactly. But something sharper had taken its place. Livia had crossed another line, and there were fewer and fewer left. I chose a small cafe 2 blocks from my apartment. One with enough noise to keep things polite, but not enough privacy for Livia to twist the truth unchallenged. I arrived early and sat near the window, a folder of printed documents resting on my lap like a shield. When Livia walked in, she did not look around. She marched straight toward me, jaw tight, shoulders squared. She dropped into the chair across from me. What is this about? She demanded. You said it was important. It is, I said. Sit. We need to talk. I am sitting, she snapped. So talk. I opened the folder. These are copies of the fraud reports, the bank documents, the police reports, everything tied to your actions. She let out a scoff loud enough for 2 nearby tables to glance over. Oh, we are doing this again. You really love making me look like the villain. Do you not? I am not making you anything, I said. I am showing you facts. She leaned forward, eyes bright with anger. Facts. Those are not facts. Those are mistakes. Misunderstandings. You are blowing everything out of proportion because you like being dramatic. My voice stayed steady. You used my social security number. You listed your apartment as my address. You opened credit lines pretending to be me. Livia raised her voice. I told you it was to help you. You cannot manage your finances alone. You needed. I did not ask for your help. I cut in, And you did not do it for me. Her face flushed. You never appreciate anything I do. Ever. You have always treated me like a burden. I treated you like my child, I said quietly, and you treated me like a wallet. A hush settled over the tables around us. Livia saw the attention and seized it. She sat back dramatically, pressing a hand to her chest. Does everyone hear this? She exclaimed loudly. My mother is abandoning me. Her own daughter. Heads began to turn. A couple near the counter exchanged uncomfortable looks. Livia's voice grew louder. She is throwing me away. After everything I have done for her. Heat rose in my cheeks, but I kept my voice low. Lower your voice. No, she shouted, standing up. Let them hear. Let them hear how heartless you are. I felt my throat tighten. I opened the folder slowly and set the documents on the table between us. These are not lies, I said. These are signatures, dates, evidence. Livia slapped the top of the folder shut. You are unbelievable. You want to make me a criminal. Your own daughter. I held her gaze. You made those choices. She looked around as if searching for support. Someone tell her a mother does not treat her child like this. The cafe owner, a soft-spoken man named Hale, approached with a cloth over his shoulder. He glanced at me, then at Livia. Ma'am. He said gently, you need to lower your voice. She is hurting me. Livia cried. She is ruining my life. Hale looked at me again. I said nothing. I did not have to. He straightened. Ma'am, he said to Livia, his voice firmer now. You need to calm down or step outside. This is not appropriate. Livia blinked. Stunned. You are taking her side. He gave a small nod. Your mother has been coming here for years. She is kind. She is respectful. Today, she is quiet. You are not. Livia froze in mid-breath. I picked up the folder calmly. I did not come here to embarrass you, I said. I came to tell you the truth. She looked at me with something like shock, then something darker. Something that twisted her expression into something unrecognizable. You will regret this, she whispered. I already regret a great many things, I replied softly. She grabbed her purse and stormed out, the bell above the cafe door ringing sharply behind her. Hale stepped closer. Are you all right, Miss Rowan? I nodded, though my hands trembled. Thank you for helping. You did nothing wrong, he said. Do you need anything, water? A minute alone, no. I murmured. I should go. As I walked out the door, the folder pressed against my side. I felt the shift inside me, the painful, necessary kind. Livia had shouted lies. I had spoken the truth, and the truth had finally been louder. My phone rang just after 8 in the morning. I hesitated before answering too many calls lately, had carried the sound of trouble. But the number on the screen belonged to the bank's fraud department. I picked up, This is Alindra. Miss Rowan, a familiar voice said. This is Investigator Daniel Pierce from Seaside Federal. I am calling with an update on your case. I sat down slowly, the chair creaking beneath me. Yes, I am here. He cleared his throat. We have completed the first stage of the investigation. After reviewing the applications, comparing signatures, digital footprints, and address discrepancies, we have confirmed that the credit attempts were fraudulent. My pulse fluttered. I see. Further, he continued, his tone sharpening. The evidence clearly shows the applications were made using your identity from a device linked to your daughter's apartment complex. My breath caught. Hearing it aloud, official. Documented hit harder than any suspicion I had carried alone. There is no ambiguity. Daniel said, Your daughter is legally responsible for the attempted fraud. I closed my eyes. The room tilted slightly, as though gravity had changed direction. What happens next? We are escalating the case to the appropriate authorities, he said. Due to your age, This also qualifies as potential elder financial abuse, which means the state takes it seriously. They may contact you for a statement. I gripped the edge of the table. I understand. We will also freeze any associated accounts and place a hard block on all future applications made under your Social Security number unless you appear in person with proper identification. That is good, I murmured. Thank you. His voice softened. Miss Rowan, I want you to hear this part clearly. You are not at fault. You did the right thing reporting this. Something inside me cracked, not from pain, but from relief. The kind of relief that comes when someone finally says aloud what you have whispered to yourself in the dark for months. I said quietly, I thought maybe I was overreacting. You were not, he said firmly. You were targeted, and you protected yourself. My eyes stung, but I kept my voice steady. What do I do now? Wait for the authorities to make contact, he said. We will continue updating you. And Miss Rowan, if your daughter reaches out to threaten or pressure you in any way, contact the police immediately. You have every right to be safe. I nodded, though he could not see it. Thank you. Daniel, truly. We are here to help, he said. Expect the paperwork for the next steps within the hour. The call ended with a soft click. I stayed seated, staring at my hands. They were trembling, but not with fear. Something else was rising in me, something sturdier, older than the guilt I had carried for years. I stood, walked to the small shelf by the window, and pulled out the folder Clara had helped me assemble. I placed the new confirmation email on top, the official stamp shining in the corner. For the first time in a long time, the ground beneath me felt solid. Justice was no longer slipping past me. It was finally turning in my direction. I was drinking tea at my kitchen table when my phone vibrated with a text from Officer Ramirez, the one who had filed the last report. We are conducting follow-up at your daughter's residence today. Just keeping you informed. My fingers tightened around the mug. I typed back a simple thank you, then set the phone down carefully, as if any sudden move might crack the moment. It took less than 20 minutes for the next call to come, not from Ramirez, but from an unfamiliar number. I let it go to voicemail. Another call followed immediately, then another. By the fourth call, my phone finally displayed her name. Livia. I did not answer. A moment later, a voicemail popped up. Her voice, shaky and furious, filled the quiet of my kitchen when I pressed play. Mom, they are here. 2 officers. They are at my door asking questions. What did you do? Why would you do this to me? She inhaled sharply, as though trying not to cry. You need to fix this. Now. Tell them it is a misunderstanding. Another call came before the message even ended. I pressed decline. A few minutes later, the phone buzzed again, but this time it was a text. Mom, they are talking to my neighbors. They are writing things down. Everyone is staring. Please, I cannot have this on my record. Answer your phone. I put the phone face down. Somewhere across the city. She must have been standing in her doorway, arms crossed or shaking her neighbors, pretending not to watch, pretending not to listen. My mind pictured the scene with a strange clarity, the 2 officers asking her about the applications, the different addresses, the device used, the repeated attempts to contact me. Livia trying to twist the story the way she always did, trying to make herself sound small, helpless, misunderstood, trying to make me sound unstable. My phone rang again. When it stopped, a new voicemail replaced it. In this one, her voice cracked. Mom, please, I do not know what they want from me. I did not think it would go this far. I thought you would just talk to me. Please pick up. I am scared. I felt the words tug at me, the familiar guilt, the instinct to soothe her no matter what she had done. But another instinct rose higher now. Self-protection. The kettle on the stove clicked as it cooled. Outside, a dog barked faintly. Normal sounds, steady sounds. The kind that did not break under pressure. My phone rang again. I let it. Voicemail, then another text. Why are you doing this? Do you want to ruin my life? You are my mother. Mothers do not do this. You owe me this. Fix it. I closed my eyes. Her words no longer sliced the way they once did. They thudded instead, heavy and predictable. The phone stayed silent for a full minute. Then the final text came. If you do not fix this, I will never forgive you. I exhaled, long and slow, and turned the phone over. I did not reply. Somewhere across Savannah, 2 officers stepped away from her doorway, papers signed. Statements taken, consequences finally reaching the person who had caused them. And for the first time, the silence that followed did not feel like punishment. It felt like choosing myself. The first sign came early in the morning, a call from Marianne that carried both hesitation and urgency. "Elindra," she said, "I think you should know. Livia's employer contacted me." I closed the refrigerator door, the carton of eggs still in my hand. "Why would they call you?" She listed me as an emergency contact. Marianne said, "They received a notice from the authorities about the fraud investigation. They needed to verify whether she had any history of financial instability." I pressed my hand against the counter to steady myself. "And what did you tell them?" "The truth," Marianne said softly. "That she has been asking relatives for money, that she's been lying, that she claimed you were having memory issues. They asked if I believed her. I told them no." A quiet breath escaped me, part relief, part sadness. How did they respond? They said they would be conducting a review. They sounded concerned. I thanked her. And when the call ended, I stood in the kitchen for a long moment, listening to the quiet ticking of the clock on the wall. The cost of her lies was beginning to reach beyond me. By noon, my phone buzzed again, this time a text from a cousin I had not spoken to in years. "Is it true Livia used your information? We heard what happened." Another message followed. "She told everyone you were declining. I'm so sorry. We didn't know the truth." I leaned back against the counter, the weight of their words settling deep. For years, Livia had shaped the story, bending it to make herself the victim, the caretaker, the struggling daughter stuck with an unstable mother. And for years, others had believed her. Now, piece by piece, that version of reality was folding in on itself. An hour later, Marianne called again. "It spread," she said quietly. "Our aunt, our cousins, even people at church. They all know now." Some of them reached out to me directly. "What are they saying that they were wrong?" Marianne replied. "That they believed her too easily. That they should have checked on you instead of accepting her stories." I sank into a chair. "I never wanted this." I whispered. "I know," she said. But the truth has a way of catching up. Evening fell before the next message arrived, this one from a number I recognized only vaguely. It was Livia's co-worker. "I'm sorry, Miss Rowan." "I don't know what she told you, but everything came out today. HR called her in. People are shaken." She stormed out. I exhaled slowly. Another message followed. "She told people you ruined her life, but nobody believes her anymore. Not after seeing the documents, not after the investigators came by." I set the phone down. My hands steady for the first time all day. It was not victory. It was not triumph. It was simply truth, finally unfiltered. Finally standing without the scaffolding of her lies. Later that night, Marianne called one more time. "Elle," she said gently. "The story she built, it is collapsing around her." I nodded, even though she could not see it. "I know. "What happens now?" she asked. I took a breath, feeling it settle deeper than the ones before. "I do not know," I said softly, "but whatever comes next, at least it will be real." And in the quiet that followed, there was no guilt, only clarity. I woke before sunrise, the apartment still wrapped in the kind of quiet that used to make me lonely. Now, it felt different. Not warm, not yet, but no longer sharp. I made tea and sat by the small table near the window, the same place where I had cried, worried, and hoped for Livia more times than I could count. My phone lay face down beside me. It had not rung all night. I let the steam brush my face and breathed in slowly. For 72 years, I had believed that motherhood meant endurance, that love was proven through sacrifice, through silence, through holding the door open even when it let the cold in. I had given Livia everything I had: my time, my health, my savings, my hope, even the parts of myself I should have protected. But the daughter I held in my heart was not the daughter who stood at my door, screaming accusations through a lock she no longer owned. I whispered her name, barely audible: "Livia." The grief came softly this time, like an ache rather than a wound. Grief for the little girl with melted ice cream on her shirt. Grief for the teenager who thought anger was power. Grief for the adult who believed taking was the only way to survive. I pressed a hand to my chest. "I loved you," I said quietly. "I still do, but I cannot let you break me." A knock sounded gently, just once. My neighbor, Mrs. Keyes, peeked in through the open crack. "You doing all right, Elle?" she asked. I smiled faintly. "I think I might be." She stepped inside with a small container of cornbread. "Heard some noise the other night. Sounded rough." She set the container down. "You do not deserve that kind of trouble." "Thank you," I said. "It is getting handled." She squeezed my shoulder. "Good. Sometimes peace costs something, but it is worth paying for." After she left, I returned to the table. The cornbread sat warm against my palm when I lifted the lid. A simple kindness, one Livia had not offered in years. I took a bite and let the quiet settle again. My phone buzzed once. A text from an unknown number. "This is the investigator assigned to your case. We will contact you later today for a final statement." I exhaled slowly. Not fear this time, just acceptance. I stood, walked to the wall where my papers hung in a neat line: the updated will, the fraud confirmation, the police report. Each page represented a piece of the life I had reclaimed. Not revenge, not punishment, protection. Choosing myself after decades of disappearing inside someone else's needs. I touched the edge of the fraud confirmation lightly. The paper felt cool beneath my fingertips. But my decision felt steady. Livia might never apologize. She might never understand. She might never be the daughter I once imagined. That grief was real, but so was the peace waiting on the other side of it. I returned to my seat, lifted my tea, and allowed myself, for the first time in years, to breathe without bracing for impact. Healing, I realized, was not something she could give me. It had always been something I had the right to claim for myself. The letter arrived just after noon, tucked neatly under my door. The return address told me everything before I even opened it. I sat at the table, slid a finger beneath the seal, and unfolded the pages, slowly, steady, deliberate. At the top, in bold print, it read, "All fraudulent charges have been assigned to the responsible party. Livia Rowan is required to repay the full amount. An official elder abuse warning has been placed on her record." My hands did not shake this time. I read each line carefully, letting the words settle into the room, like dust finally coming to rest. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed with a message from Officer Ramirez. "Miss Rowan, The investigation is now officially complete. You are protected moving forward. If she attempts contact again, notify us immediately." I typed back a quiet, "Thank you." Nothing more. As I set the phone down, a strange warmth rose in my chest. Not pride, not victory, but something softer. Relief. Safety. A kind of peace I had been chasing for decades without realizing it. I walked to the small wall near the hallway, the one that had slowly become something of a record of my survival. I took 3 documents from the folder on my desk and pinned them in a neat row. The police report that cleared me, the fraud resolution, stamped and final. My updated will, the first document in years written entirely on my own terms. They hung there like 3 quiet promises. I touched the edges lightly. I kept myself safe. I whispered. I finally did. The apartment felt different now, lighter, though nothing in it had moved. The air no longer felt like something I needed to brace against. I walked to the door, unlocked it, and stepped onto the small porch outside. A warm breeze slipped across my face, carrying the faint sound of distant traffic and someone's wind chimes a few buildings over. I sat on the wooden bench, feeling the sun touch my hands. No pounding fists on the door, no shouted accusations, no keys scraping in the lock, just the steady rhythm of my own breathing and the quiet truth that this place, this life, finally belonged to me. I realized then that choosing myself had never been an act of cruelty. It had been an act of return, a return to the woman I once was, before fear softened my boundaries and love contorted itself into obligation, a return to the home I built with my own hands, kept with my own strength, and reclaimed with my own courage. I stood, letting the sun rest on my shoulders for a moment longer, then stepped back inside. My home felt full again, not of noise or people or expectations, but of something deeper, peace. And once you choose peace for yourself, no one, not even the person who hurt you most, can take it away. If you want to see how this story came alive on video, stay with me. There is so much more I want to share.